I'm Gab, he's Jules, and he's Mark Ogden, and it's blue skies over West London. Blue are still with Augie here, what can I say? We have a packed show today, guys, because we'll be talking about a lot of the latest transfer stuff, Mane and Sebastian Aller and so on. But I think there's one place to start, which is this thing which I find really extraordinary in terms of English football. Not that extraordinary elsewhere, we've seen similar things happen, but Richard Arnold, who is the chief executive of Manchester United, the man who took over from Ed Woodward, he went to the pub with a bunch of fans who'd come. They were in, I guess, I'm assuming he lives in some village in Cheshire somewhere, and as most of these people do, and apparently they were going to protest outside his house.
That's
he got
right.
wind of it, and so he decides, let me preempt this, let me meet them at the pub, and let me have a pint with them, or from the looks of it, several pints. Now, one of these gentlemen filmed him, and it's all over social media. Augie, this is a big story. I want to start with something obvious. If Richard Arnold had rung you up and said, oh, a bunch of blokes are coming outside my house for a protest, should I go meet them at the pub and preempt them? This is a good idea, what Richard Arnold did, I think. Do you agree?
You can see both sides of this. I think it's a good idea to converse with the fans and tell the fans what is happening, what you're thinking. Maybe the environment wasn't the best because it's a pub, there's alcohol involved, you don't know who you're meeting. I mean, we've seen that certain groups of fans, of United fans, have got a little bit violent at times. You know, we've seen houses being attacked, we've seen trouble at games, we've seen the Liverpool game was abandoned last season by fans. So I think it had to be maybe a bit more on his guard. You know, fair play for the guys actually going and fronted up to them. You know,
I think in terms of the story and putting his view of things across, I mean,
But why were they planning to go out and protest outside of his house? He's been there 3 minutes. What are they not happy with?
well, he's been there longer than that. He's at the club and you see him as a Glazer guy. I'm assuming this is why, right?
But what to say what? Like, we haven't signed anyone yet?
Well, this is part of the problem because the reaction I've seen has been quite mixed. And yes, they went to protest, but the guy came out and spoke to them, and immediately people involved or people close to those involved or fans are saying, oh, well, don't believe a word he says. So if you don't believe a word he says, then why are you even sitting down with him? If you think immediately that whatever he says is a lie or it's Glazer speak, then don't sit down with him. But if he's sitting down with you, give the guy the credit for what he said and don't immediately put it to the kind of the perspective that he's speaking Glazer speak. But he can't win. Until Man United sign some players and win some trophies, he cannot win.
No, it's obvious results will turn this around. In terms of what he actually said, and we'll get to the fact that whether he knew or didn't know that he was being filmed, it appears that he did not know he was being filmed. Personally, if I were Richard Arnold, and he's as clever as people say, I think he would have assumed that he's there with 5 or 6 guys. Should have been. I think he probably knew that he was being filmed or recorded. And the reason I say this is
quite naive, yeah.
Naive, or maybe he knew, because frankly, there's nothing that he said which surprised me, which I wouldn't expect him to say on the record at a press conference. Maybe without the swearing, obviously.
Yeah.
But, you know, is there anything he said that surprised you,
Yeah,
Jules?
he said, like, we burned £1 billion. Why are you just going to say, listen, we're working hard, we've got high
Right,
ambitions?
but no. But I just want to get into this point, though. Did he say anything that he would regret saying? This is the point that I'm driving at.
I just don't think it's a good look to say that we burned all that money last season with all the swearing. Last season was a car crash or was a nightmare or whatever. I don't think he could have stayed positive. He could have looked forward, saying, listen, this is what we're doing. This is a new era. We've got a new manager. All of that. And instead, he felt very negative what he was saying, most of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stuff he said about last season was a nightmare. This is the guy that I think pretty early on last season, or certainly when Solskjaer was given a contract, suggested he was doing a phenomenal job, and he wasn't. So...
But he's a commercial dude. Like,
yeah,
he's not a football guy.
You can't shift your position like that. But I think in terms of the video, I think that he would have hoped it wasn't filmed, but it would be naive to think it wasn't filmed.
Right. So he probably knew there was a good chance he was being filmed.
Yeah, but what he should have done is said, look, guys, I'm seeing you now. Put your phones on the table and turn them over. You know, that
Okay, fine. But what I'm saying is, did he say anything that was off message from United's point of view?
Not a good look.
I think it wasn't great to kind of talk about the specifics about how much money they've got this year. He said that the money's there for the manager to spend, and I think there's some suggestion. I haven't heard the video clip, but there's some suggestion linked to the clip that he did give a figure, £200 million, which I think I'd be surprised if he said that. If he did, that's naive, because all of a sudden you're telling your kind of your rivals, your competitors, how much to spend, how much they need to raise in terms of sales. So that isn't ideal. That's kind of giving away your hand a little bit. He also spoke about the deal for De Jong or the attempted deal for De Jong. So again, that's not great while the deal is still kind of being...
But what did he say about it? He said, we're doing everything we can to get it over the line. I don't understand, here in England, it's like, oh no, we're not talking about speculation. It's all speculation. I wish people would come out and say, we are trying to sign Frankie De Jong. We're only going to sign him at a certain price. We're working hard at it. I got no problem with it. What is the problem with it?
They do it from a position of weakness, and everything they do at the moment, or everything they have done recently, has been a failure. So I think it's all talk and no action. That is the problem. Stop talking, get it done. And now, primarily, I think what he did meeting the fans and speak to them was a good thing, because I don't think Ed Woodward would have done it, and I think Ed was happy to speak to other people in certain ways, but I don't think it's a bad thing to speak to the fans, but it's just the environment you speak to them and the fans you speak to, and it's the trust, because I don't think it's great that fans generally criticise players or some players or reps or whatever for leaking information about what's going on at the club because they're not happy. Then the fans automatically leak a video because they're not happy, so it's hypocritical.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.